Hello! Today we are going to be talking about online standardized testing. This has been a very controversial topic in education today. Both educators, administration through the education programs in schools, and psychologists have been debating on whether or not online standardized testing is actually beneficial for their students. Standardized testing as a whole is very controversial in and of itself, but now the online aspect of it has caused even more issues in education today. So the overall situation is now schools are introducing online standardized testing as their new mode for assessment, completely getting rid of those written assessments. There is a huge controversy over this because many schools are not requiring them as a graduation requirement, but there are some schools that are making these tests a graduation requirement. But the biggest problem is students are not doing well on these tests. Teachers are also on the chopping block because of this test, which is not always a problem with the original written test. Sometimes the written test had better scores than the online tests. Not every state in the United States has taken to online testing, but many of them are on track to introduce it this school year. So there are a lot of problems occurring with this topic. The major one is computer glitches. That's one of the most common problems that school systems are having with these online tests. Many of these new Wi-Fi systems and servers in these schools are not able to handle the amount of people on the system at a time, because not only are people taking the test at certain times during the day, but regular instruction still needs to happen, and many teachers today use technology as part of their classroom. Some schools are even built like a Google Classroom system. This overload in the system is crashing the test, so some students aren't able to actually finish their test. Screens are also a big problem because they're hard to read from, and some students just can't read off of a screen. They'd rather have the written passages in front of them. They're missing key details, and this is occurring a lot in the written tests, the reading written tests, where they're writing essays and they're reading passages and trying to decipher key details. Some tests are actually delayed because of these overloaded servers. So they're not loading as fast, they're not as accurate because of the delays. Students also are way more stressed because these tests have so many issues. They're not only thinking, oh, am I going to pass this test? But now they're thinking, is my computer going to be the one to crash? Is my test not going to be able to go through? And high school seniors especially are afraid that they won't graduate. So there's also the issue that a lot of students are not even taking these tests. Schools are allowing their students to opt out of the test, and that skews the school's data, so they're not able to actually get an accurate picture of the school and how the students are doing. That also goes along with teacher assessments. Teacher assessments are not being as accurate as they once were because parents are pulling their students out of these tests because of all the problems that they've been causing and the stress that these students are under. So a few more problems is they've found that some of the text features that are on these tests are not actually the grade level that is taking them. They're actually too far above grade level. We're also moving away from fictional tests on these tests, and they're looking at nonfiction material. So they're not actually getting both sides of the language arts test. They're only getting nonfiction materials, which in some cases are harder for students to understand. There have been concerns about student score privacy as well. A lot of parents are concerned that their student scores are becoming too public. And the biggest problem is scores are down by a lot as compared to the students' written tests. A couple of myths were they're easy to record students' information, they give a good image of how teachers are doing, and there is a less chance for error, which, based off the last slide, they're not exactly true. So the last thing I would like to talk about is one example. This is the PARCC testing example. So in grade 3, they do 3 units of English language arts with varying times of 90, 75, and then 90 minutes. And then they do 4 units of 60 minutes apiece of mathematics. And then grades 4 through 5, their English language arts they go for 90 minutes each and 60 minutes each for math for 4 units. These times can be too much for some students. They don't always get good breaks like they would with a written test. They also aren't given enough time for errors, because once you start your test, you can't restart them because that will ruin the data that's already been there. So students are worried if they don't have enough time, and it's sometimes harder to click through windows, so they're running out of time that way. They can see the timer going off, so stress is a big thing that is wrong with these tests. And then finally, these are some of the sources I've used, and it was a very interesting topic to look through.